Chapter 5. Blow at High Do. June 19th, 1998. Jordan Road. Gil LaChance wasn't worried. He was concerned. He was stressed. But had he yet reached full-scale worry? He didn't think so. He'd found worse trouble in his 34 years spent on this planet, and he always managed to squeak by unscathed, either through cunning or plain dumb luck. Someone once told him that lucky people tended to stay lucky. He genuinely hoped that that was the case, as Lady Luck had always been on his side. Hell, LaChance was French for luck. How could he possibly be unlucky? The rain picked up, pebbling the Chevy Celebrity's windshield. Gil had only been driving for half an hour and was still unsure of the layout for all the controls. He fumbled for the wiper switch. They flicked to life on their lowest setting. The windshield cleared, and he returned his eyes to the winding country road that swam out of the murk. A bead of sweat rolled onto his forehead. He found the power window buttons. Both front windows lowered a few inches, and, in time, he felt a fraction more relaxed. No, he wasn't worried. There was no reason to worry yet. He had a car with a full tank of gas. There was a good song on the radio, and the men looking for him were probably 200 miles away. He blinked and scratched his beard. The cool, moist air helped revitalize him. He'd been on the run nearly 15 hours, efficiently putting as much distance as possible between himself and the hornet's nest he had stirred up in Seattle. He shuddered with a residual adrenaline rush, reliving the morning's events. The crashing glass, sirens, shouting and gunshots, the steady drone of a helicopter, barely audible over the pounding pulse in his ears. Typical Gil, his brother's voice, fetched from some dark recess of his mind, taunted him. You always want more, and look at where it gets you. You think you'd learn after what happened with the Talbot brothers. There was no escaping it. He knew that his all-encompassing need for more would either be his secret of success or his undoing. Fate had yet to decide which one it would be. Henri may have been content living in a cockroach-infested one-bedroom, selling quarter ounces of low-grade hydroponic to McGill's students, but Robert LaChance's youngest son expected more out of life. Robert LaChance's youngest son had the sack to go for the big money. Let that fat shit rot in his hole. He flipped through radio channels. Henri'll die a poor man. The Chevy's clock showed 2 minutes to 3. He didn't think there would be any news updates this late at night. The last one he had tuned into spoke of the shootout and statewide manhunt in Washington, and little else. Of course, he'd still been in Washington then. They shouldn't be looking this far east, with any luck. How many others had managed to escape? He saw Greg get tackled by a DEA guy, and that black kid in the Chicago Bulls jersey get shot at least 3 times. There couldn't have been many. This came as a relief to him, as other than his partners, the only person to trace him back to the shootout at Speedy's auto body was a Seattle PD officer who was currently cooling his heels in the coroner's fridge. Gil sighed, remembering the twisted snarl of pain on the pig's face as the bullet ripped through him. He took no pleasure in killing, and had no doubt that the young pig, who looked like an overgrown Opie from the Andy Griffith Show, would soon be haunting many of his fitful dreams. He may have found murder abhorrent, but that kid was dressed in a Seattle PD uniform. He had been holding a loaded pistol, and stood between Gil and freedom, and no life was worth more than Gilbert LaChance's freedom. It was 5 past the hour, no news update, which might have been a good thing. The DJ had just racked a Van Halen song. Running with the devil, I'll take his company. He smiled and rolled the windows down full, letting the mist bead onto his arm and face. No, There was no reason to worry. By sunrise he should be well into Idaho. He could ditch this car, grab something with in-state plates, and keep heading east. Maybe find a pair of scissors and a razor in case the heat had a picture out. He rolled the window up and nosed the car into a wide curve with both sides hemmed in with jack pine. County Road 128 could easily have been any two-lane highway in rural Quebec, his ultimate destination. Crossing the border would be risky, but hopefully he would not look out of place to some northern Maine customs officer. Wide smile. Speak a bit of the old Francais. It'll be a piece of cake. Just watch out for Claude Talbot once you're across. I'll bet he hasn't forgotten what you did to Jacques. Gil sped past a narrow ribbon of yellow police tape, strung along a side road. He furrowed his eyebrows. Police tape belonged in a city. He knew that he was coming up on a place called Raccoon City, a stupid name if he ever heard one, but assumed that it was another shit-splat town like the last three he had passed through. Small towns had their own challenges. Nosy townsfolk, pigs with too much time on their hands, but back roads were the way to go until the heat was off of him. He hadn't really planned on passing through any major centres, though it shouldn't be a problem this late at night. The Chevy Celebrity glided through another series of lazy curves. He let off on the gas to make up for the steepening grade, no sense speeding, and fumbled for his pack of cigarettes. Nicotine was a distant second to what he really wanted, a half-gram of good quality blow. He shook his head. 15 hours ago he had been in the same room as 30 kilograms of the stuff. He popped an Export A, Green Death, between his cracked-feeling lips and felt for the cigarette lighter. 30 keys of good grade white, all gone. I should have known better than to get mixed up with those wetbacks. C'est la vie, he mumbled, his hands still in search of the car's electric lighter. Where is that goddamn thing? Gil flipped on the map light and scanned the dash for the lighter. He found it and pressed it in. His mouth watered. He was not a man used to being denied his vices. He glanced up and his lower jaw dropped. The cigarette swung into his beard with the filter stuck to his wet lower lip. There was a man standing directly in front of the car. Ah, Calice! Electric fire rocketed through his body, causing nearly every muscle to clench in a violent spasm. His teeth slammed together. His heart triple-pounded in his chest with a fierceness to rival the most intense of cocaine rushes. Time slowed to a near stop. Gil watched fascinated, detached, as the accident played out in front of him. He felt his fingers grip into the soft steering wheel, his hands jerk at 90 degrees to the left. He saw the idiot in front of him, some drunk, judging by the stupefied expression on his rain-drenched face, glance over his slumped shoulders at the onrushing sedan. He heard the brakes skid and shudder as they locked up on the wet-washed asphalt. He could feel the pedal bend under the exertion. He had time to think. Not fast enough, I'm gonna hit him! Before the Chevy Celebrity did just that, striking the man with the right fender, hurtling him up and over the roof. The sickeningly low crunch the car made as flesh met sheet metal seemed to reset time, or possibly speed it up ever so slightly. Gil stared through the cracked windshield, realizing in dismay that his car was still locked up, barreling off the road at what seemed like the speed of sound. He slipped his foot off the brake pedal, back onto the gas, and spun the steering wheel in the opposite direction. His body slammed against the driver's door as he overcorrected. The back tires cut loose on the spit-shined highway, and the car slewed at a right angle to the road. Gil was still staring ahead, trying to steer the car straight, when the driver's side tires dug into the gravel shoulder. The engine screamed to its red line as the passenger tires lifted off the road and spun without resistance. The car flipped. He was hammered against the door. It occurred to him that he wasn't belted in. The trees spun, a wild green blur on the other side of the breaking glass. "This is going to hurt,"